Story 1. I threw away my pregnant sister-in-law's groceries. My brother and his wife Laura, who's 7 months pregnant, have been staying with us for about a week while he goes through job interviews in our city. My kids love having their aunt and uncle around, and everything had been going great until yesterday. Laura went grocery shopping and came back with several bags full of food. I thanked her but told her it wasn't necessary, we already had plenty, and we were just happy to have them visiting. She smiled and said she wanted to buy her own things anyway, because most of them were her pregnancy cravings. I helped her unload the bags and immediately noticed that almost everything contained peanuts, cookies, crackers, peanut butter, even a cake with peanut filling. Right away, my stomach twisted. She knows my oldest son has a severe peanut allergy. We don't keep anything with peanuts in the house after we almost lost him once when he was little. I didn't want to sound rude, but I told her I was really uncomfortable having that kind of food here. Laura said she'd be careful she wouldn't eat it near the kids, she'd clean up after herself, and she really needed it for her cravings. Listen, I've had 4 kids. I understand weird cravings, but I've never felt like I would die if I didn't eat a specific snack. Anyway, I explained everything to my son, told him not to touch her food and to stay away from her when she was eating. That was that, or so I thought. This morning I woke up early to make breakfast. I opened the fridge and saw strawberries dipped in peanut butter sitting right on the shelf, uncovered. Next to them, a jar of peanut butter with the lid off and a plate of sandwiches, because apparently she likes her bread cold and soggy. I completely lost it. I've read enough about airborne allergens to know I can't risk it. I grabbed a big trash bag and started throwing everything inside her food, our food, all of it. I planned to drop the bag off at a shelter later and explain the situation. Laura came downstairs right in the middle of my fury and asked what I was doing. I snapped back, not even hiding how angry I was. We argued. She defended herself, saying I had no right, that her baby needed that food, and that I was cruel for depriving a pregnant woman of her cravings. I said flatly, I don't care. If you can't keep your word, then I'm not obligated to risk my child's life. She stormed upstairs, packed her things, came down, grabbed the bag of food, and left in rage. My brother was at his interview, but he called me about 30 minutes later, furious, wanting to know what had happened. He was angry at both of us, said nothing actually happened, my son was fine, so I was overreacting. When my husband came home from work, I told him everything, and he was completely on my side. So, did I go too far? Later that evening, my mom called. Apparently, Laura had already gone crying to her. Mom was livid. She'd already chewed Laura out and made sure my son was okay. She said even my stepdad gave Laura one of his famous disapproving glares, the kind that could freeze you on the spot. When my brother came by that night to grab the rest of their things, he apologized for Laura's behavior but still said she'd been crying nonstop, that she felt unloved and unwanted by the family, and he blamed me for that. My husband stepped in and said enough was enough. He told my brother that her feelings didn't outweigh our child's safety and that she needed to stop playing the victim while I was literally scrubbing the entire kitchen because of her mess. My brother said we were impossible to deal with, that we were too stubborn, and left. After things calmed down, I did start feeling bad that Laura was upset and felt unwanted. I didn't want that. I thought maybe I should apologize not for my actions, because I still believe I did the right thing, but for how harshly it all happened. I should have just said from the start that peanut products weren't allowed, and that's it. Update 1. As some people predicted in the comments, Laura immediately went running to my family. But after Mom scolded her, Laura quieted down. My stepdad even gave her one of his signature stern looks. Believe me, that alone is legendary. That's when my brother came to pack up, apologized, and left angry. I thought that was the end of it. But a few days later, Laura called me. I hesitated to answer, but curiosity won. At first, she tried making small talk, but then she broke down and apologized. She said she had no excuse other than hormones. We ended up talking for a long time, and honestly, it felt relieving. Like maybe we could fix this. She even invited us to her birthday party. It would be at their house instead of a restaurant because staying in a hotel had drained their budget. I told her I'd talk to my husband and let her know. Later, my brother also sent a message apologizing, saying he was just trying to protect his wife. My husband said it was too soon to forgive, but left the choice to me. And honestly, I believed Laura's apology. My sister, who had also yelled at Laura before, got an apology too, and so did my parents. Laura invited everyone. Our kids begged for a cousin sleepover instead of coming along, so that's what we arranged. Our regular babysitter's 16-year-old twin girls from next door were available, and their mom offered to help since there'd be extra kids that night. Everything seemed fine. I called Laura and said my husband and I would come. When we arrived, she greeted us at the door. We gave her a gift, walked in, and she immediately looked confused that we didn't bring the kids. I reminded her it was supposed to be adults only. My sister and her husband arrived too, same reaction. Dinner was awkward. We tried small talk, but it felt forced. Then Laura asked again about the kids, why we left them home when she'd made a special dish for them. I felt a bit guilty, apologized, and thanked her for thinking of them. My sister jumped in and said the kids were doing a cousin sleepover tonight and that she couldn't wait for her future nephew to join them when he's older. Laura smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm sure he'll be best friends with his cousins and his step-cousins too." That word step-cousins made my blood boil. In our family, we never use that term. We're just family. But I bit my tongue. My sister looked hurt. My brother nudged Laura under the table with that "what are you doing" face. We ate in silence for a few minutes until Laura asked again who was watching the kids. I said, "Our neighbors, the twins, and their mom." Laura laughed and joked that those girls and their mother must be terribly incompetent if it takes 3 of them to handle a few kids. For reference, I have 4 kids. Yes, they're energetic, but they're great kids. Add my sisters too, and it's a lot for 2 teenage babysitters, even for one evening. Before I could respond, my mom, sitting there with her perfect polite smile, said, "How sweet of you, Laura, to volunteer next time. I'm sure the kids will love that." Laura shut up immediately. Dinner became even more tense. When it was time for dessert, Laura brought out pastries, and my brother carried a cake from the fridge. That's when everything exploded. I'd gone to the bathroom for a minute, and when I came back, my husband was holding my purse, trying to get me to leave right away. He looked furious. I was confused. I wanted at least to say goodbye politely. When I pulled away from him and turned back toward the table, I saw it. The table was covered with desserts, all made with peanut butter. Peanut butter cookies, brownies, peanut pie, peanut cupcakes, and the centerpiece, the cake my brother was holding, filled with peanut cream. Laura smiled wide and said loudly, "I thought that at least on my birthday I should be allowed to have what I crave, enjoy before she throws it all away again." For a second, I honestly thought my sister was going to jump over the table. I wasn't far behind. All I could think was that Laura had planned this whole thing, expecting my kids to come just to hurt us. If the kids had been here tonight, my son could have died again because of her cruelty. I snapped. Before I even realized what I was doing, I grabbed Laura by the head, turned her toward my brother, who looked too shocked to move, and shoved her face straight into the cake. I held her there while she flailed and said, "I hope you choke on your damn cravings before you hurt someone else." Honestly, I wanted to throw the pie at her too, but I knew I'd already gone too far. I told my brother that we were done with him and with her, and that if they ever tried to contact us again, I'd file for a restraining order. Then I let my husband pull me out of the house. My sister and her husband followed. My parents stayed behind. I heard Laura screaming obscenities after us until my stepdad raised his voice and she went completely silent. When we were kids, one look from him was enough to make us freeze. I didn't ask Mom what happened next. I couldn't take another blow involving my brother. I know this isn't the update people expected, but I'm done with both of them. My brother couldn't not know this all happened under his roof. It hurts to think I'll never meet my nephew, that my kids won't see their cousin, but it's better to grieve that than bury my child. I know smashing her face into the cake wasn't right. I'm working through it in therapy now, trying to cope with the guilt. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive myself, but not today. Story 2. My sister's boyfriend refused to eat my food because he's on a diet, so I kicked him out. I'm 28, and I invited my sister, who's 25, and her boyfriend, 26, over for dinner. I love cooking, like, really love it, and I'd spent several hours in the kitchen making a full homemade feast. Fresh pasta, slow-cooked ragu, salad, and tiramisu for dessert. I was proud and excited for them to try it. At first, everything was fine. We sat down, I started serving plates, and that's when her boyfriend, let's call him Steve, looked at the pasta, then at me, and said, "I don't eat carbs." At first, I laughed. I thought he was joking. But no, he was dead serious. He started explaining how he was on a strict keto diet and that carbs are toxic. Okay, whatever. His choice. So I offered to quickly make him a salad or something else. But he refused. Instead, he said I should have known about his diet beforehand. Then it got weird. He pulled out a plastic container from his bag, I kid you not, and inside was boiled chicken and broccoli. And he started eating it, right there, at my dinner table. I was shocked and honestly, offended. I told him it was rude to bring your own food without telling the host, and that he could have just let me know in advance. He started lecturing me about respecting his dietary needs and said I was being controlling for not accepting his lifestyle. That's when I lost it a little. I said, "If you can't eat what's served and won't let me make something else for you, maybe you should just leave." He stood up, muttered something like, "I'm just trying to eat right," grabbed his Tupperware, and walked out. My sister stayed for a while, but eventually left too, said I'd embarrassed her boyfriend and made them feel unwelcome. Now she's mad at me. She says I humiliated Steve and that I owe him an apology. My mom agrees with her, but my friends are all on my side. So, was I the asshole for kicking him out? Update. Things escalated way more than I expected. The day after I kicked Steve out, my sister texted that they wanted to have a family dinner to talk about it. I figured it would just be the three of us. Maybe a calm talk, clear the air. Yeah, right. Instead, I showed up to find my parents there and Steve's parents too. His less than #0. 5# is greater than. It looked like a damn intervention. The moment I walked in, Steve's mother, let's call her Carol, came at me, saying Steve has special dietary needs and that people who love him should respect his boundaries. She was acting like he had a deadly allergy, not just a trendy diet. My mom sat there stiff, clearly uncomfortable, while my dad silently sipped his beer, probably wishing he could disappear. Then, Carol started reading from a list. A literal printed list of Steve's restrictions, what he can and can't eat. She even had a folder. She handed out copies to everyone, to me, my mom, my dad, like this was some kind of business presentation. I flipped through it, and there were menus. Example meals, restaurant suggestions, keto-approved recipes. I nearly laughed, but then it got worse. Steve spoke up and said he was willing to forgive me for disrespecting his lifestyle if I agreed to host another dinner. A makeup dinner, as he called it, where everything would be cooked to meet his keto standards. He said it would prove I respected him. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He even pulled out his phone to show me some recipe apps I could use. I was absolutely stunned. My sister sat there silently, staring at her plate, looking mortified. My poor mom tried to diffuse the tension and said maybe we should all just eat what we want when we're together. But Carol snapped, "It's not that simple," and proudly declared that their entire family eats keto, and that's why Steve takes it so seriously. That's when I stood up and said, "Okay, that's enough. I'm not throwing a keto redemption dinner. I'm not proving anything. If Steve doesn't want to eat what I make, that's fine. But bringing your own food without warning is rude, and I'm not apologizing for being offended." Then Steve's dad stood up, pointed at me, and shouted, "This is why Steve doesn't trust women. They never understand him. They always make it about themselves." The entire room went dead silent. That's when my dad finally stood too, completely calm, and said, "You need to leave." Then he walked toward the door, not waiting for a response, basically escorting Steve's parents out. Steve stayed, fuming. He yelled that family should support each other and accused me of trying to ruin his relationship because I was jealous of my sister. At that point, I just stood up and left. I'd had enough of the circus. A few days later, my sister called. She said she and Steve were taking a break. Apparently, this whole keto drama had been the final straw. Turns out, he'd been super controlling for months trying to make her go keto too. She even admitted she'd been hiding snacks in her car so she could eat without him nagging her. Now Steve's completely ghosted everyone. My sister's staying with me for a while. Meanwhile, Carol keeps sending passive-aggressive texts like, "Steve's hurting so much, and you just misunderstood him." Honestly, I'm just glad my sister finally saw what kind of manipulative jerk he really was. And if I ever hear the word keto again, I might actually scream. Story 3. I filed for divorce because my husband tightens jar lids too much. Yeah, I know how insane that sounds. But hear me out. This whole thing started years ago, back when we were just dating and he'd come over to my place sometimes. He used to tighten the lids on jars, like really tighten them. At first, it was just the jars he opened himself. Then, somehow, it became every jar in the house. I couldn't open a single one without help. If he was home, fine, he'd open it. But if he wasn't, I was screwed. I can't even count how many times I had to open a new jar of something because I couldn't get into the one we already had. It became this weird cycle. Things would be calm for a while, then I'd hit another lid I couldn't open, I'd snap, there'd be yelling, tears, rage, and then calm again. Over and over, for 5 years. He said he did it to keep the food fresh. I didn't believe that for a second. Even if it was true, I didn't care. Let the damn food go stale. At least I could eat it without a fight. After enough arguments, he changed his excuse. Said it was just a habit. A habit that was driving me insane. A month ago, he had a family emergency and had to travel out of state for 10 days. On the very first day, I went to make lunch, grabbed a jar of pickles and, of course, couldn't open it. I was furious. I was literally about to go to the store to buy a new jar when my neighbor said hi over the fence and offered to help if I ever needed anything while my husband was gone. I paused, went inside, grabbed the jar, and said, "Actually, could you try this?" He opened it instantly. No struggle, just pop. The next day, same thing, another jar, same problem. I asked the neighbor again. He opened all of them except 2. Even he couldn't get those open. He laughed and said, "Wow, your husband must have wrists of steel." Then he paused and said something that made my stomach drop. He said, "You know he's doing this on purpose, right?" He pointed out that some of the jars like chili paste or mango puree were things my husband never used. So why were those sealed shut too? When he left, I locked the door, sat on the kitchen floor, and started crying. Then I started shaking. Then I felt hot, dizzy, nauseous. My chest tightened so much I thought I was having a heart attack. I almost called an ambulance, but didn't. I just sat there thinking, if this is a heart attack, so be it. Later that day, my neighbor came back with one of the jars the chocolate sauce opened. He apologized for breaking the one with the fig jam, said it shattered when he tried using a wrench on it. He also apologized for suggesting my husband was doing it on purpose. I told him it was fine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned until morning. At 10 a.m., I called in sick to work. By noon, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to be married to this man anymore. I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer the next day. We had no other problems, no cheating, no violence, no financial issues. Our sex life was fine. We both had good jobs. Our home was peaceful. But I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live with someone who deliberately made me feel powerless every single day over something as stupid as a jar. When he came back from his trip, I told him I wanted a divorce. He was stunned. He kept saying I was overreacting, that it was just jars. He swore he wasn't doing it on purpose, offered to go to therapy. I said no. There was no point. Even now, he still denies it. But I know the truth. Because tell me, why would the jar of spicy chili paste be screwed tighter than anything else in the fridge? He's never even eaten that stuff. So yeah, that's my story. I'm divorcing my husband because he tightens jar lids too much. It sounds ridiculous, but it's real. If it had been just 1 or 2 jars, I might have doubted myself. But every single one? Even the ones he never touches? No, that's not an accident. Most of my friends and relatives think I've lost my mind. But they weren't there for the years of small, quiet frustration. They didn't live with the exhaustion of constantly asking for help for something that should be easy. They don't understand how being made to feel helpless over and over again can break you. So yeah, maybe it sounds crazy. But to me, it's the sanest thing I've ever done. Sometimes it's not the big betrayals that destroy you. It's the small, constant ones, the tiny ways people take your power away until you forget you ever had it. Love shouldn't make you feel trapped. Family shouldn't make you feel replaceable. And kindness shouldn't be mistaken for weakness. If these stories taught us anything tonight, it's that boundaries matter. Whether it's protecting your child, your dignity, or your peace, you have the right to draw that line. And if someone keeps crossing it, you have every right to walk away. Thank you for listening. You're watching Story Boar, where real emotions tell real stories. Take care of yourselves, and don't let anyone tighten your jar lids.